I'd like to introduce myself here first, but I'm afraid I can't. You'll understand why in a moment. Furthermore, there are numerous details in this story that must be kept hidden for safety reasons. I shouldn't have told the story in the first place, but it's all been so difficult in recent weeks that I just need to get it off my chest. Consider 2 years ago. I'm a typical 14-year-old with no major issues other than stress at school and boredom on weekends. I have a lot of really good friends, no enemies, and a wonderful family. It's just my parents, and I've always suspected that my father works in finance, economics, or something similar. To be honest, I wasn't all that interested. I mistook it for a regular day job, like the majority of other fathers. So I wasn't too surprised when a couple of men in suits showed up at our house to speak with my father, who seemed perplexed. But it was difficult not to notice something was wrong when the next time they came. They brought my father with them. Again, I apologize for not going into specifics, but the story was that my father, who had never been a gangster or anything, was involved in a crime. So he was basically arrested that night. He returned fairly quickly after that because, as I later discovered, he had agreed to assist in an investigation, and he was now a witness, and he was apparently in danger. I never asked who these people were who could endanger us because I didn't want to know too much about what my father was up to. It's all over now, and that's all that matters. To cut a long story short, our family was accepted into the Witness Protection Program, which is when the nightmares began. The initial stages of getting into it were not particularly exciting. We remained at home, but there was always a police car outside for our protection. I couldn't walk anywhere on my own any longer. I was driven to school and then home, and I spent the rest of the day inside. I could still see my friends now and then, but I had to keep my mouth shut about the program. So life became more stressful, but it was nothing compared to what was to come. I didn't realize it at the time, but while this was going on, plans were being made to relocate us to a different part of the country. Imagine my surprise when I learned one morning that I needed to pack only the necessities because we were leaving that night. Officials probably advised my parents not to tell me anything in case I couldn't keep it a secret. Anyway, we got into a van at 2 a.m. and never looked back. The driver was an unknown man who remained silent the entire time, and our coordinator was also in the front seat. We drove all night and then all day the next day, rarely stopping. Finally, we arrived in a town I'd never heard of before. The house was ready for us, but it was obvious that everything had been hurriedly put together. Everything we needed for survival was present, but it was far from a home. It was a living space, but it was adequate. I didn't care because I was so exhausted. I only needed a shower and a bed, and over the next few days, I found out how our lives would change. I'm not sure where to begin. We essentially got a new life. We were allowed to keep our first names, but we were assigned new surnames. My father got a job as an accountant at a small local firm, and I started at a new school. Now we had to learn the legend of why we moved to this part of the country and what my family had done for all these years. And, well, it was all very exciting. It was also terrifying. It took me a few weeks to adjust to my new surname, and I almost said the old one out loud in class a couple of times. One of the final things our coordinator said to me, because the danger was so serious, he personally instructed each of us. Everyone in our town must have assumed we were dead. As a result, we had to cut all ties with friends and family. That was a complete surprise. A few days later, I found out that there was a news story about the three of us dying in a car accident, and local police confirmed it. That meant a lot of different things. But the most shocking thing to me was that all of my friends now assumed I was dead and that I would never see, text, or talk to them again. My family's safety was at stake, so I suppose we all had to move on. After all, my mother and father were far more stressed than I was. That was the first time I was glad I didn't have grandparents. That's a whole other set of stories in and of itself. We only had a few distant relatives who wouldn't notice if we stopped communicating. And it became increasingly strange over time. I adjusted to my new life slowly at first. I even made a few new friends here. It's been a little over a year since everything happened, and I thought I was prepared for anything. It turned out, however, that I was not. So, throughout the year, I got emotional now and then, and I checked in on social media with my past life friends to see what was going on in their lives. And, of course, I had to abandon my previous page, and thankfully, I caught myself before I accidentally logged in. As a result, they had no idea I was online, but about a year after we disappeared, I looked them up again, and what I found was shocking. All of my friends posted pictures exactly a year after our car accident. I went in and wrote about how much they missed me, how difficult this story was for them all, and how it profoundly changed them. All I wanted to do was scream. These posts were filled with so much love, kindness, sadness, and pain. I literally burst into tears. I wanted to rush up to them, hug them, and ask if it was okay that I was there. But that is simply not possible. Please appreciate those around you, because you never know what life will bring you tomorrow. I'm confident that I and my family will be fine. I feel much better now that I've gotten this off my chest. I'm hoping that my story will be turned into a video. Please share your experiences in the comments section.